This is CBC Vancouver News.
We thank you for what you've done. You are truly a national treasure.
The captain says goodbye. Christine Sinclair finishes her international soccer career for Canada here in BC with a victory.
Knowing that when I logged on, I was going to get a barrage of hateful messages calling me every name in the book.
Experts push parents and governments to act quickly against online sexual extortion after police say a BC boy took his own life after being threatened. And
what we're seeing in response to need is a dramatic increase in every category.
BC's health minister says a hiring blitz is paying off.
It is the chronic short staffing that is making things very difficult.
But some frontline healthcare staff say they're still waiting for relief. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Pan Am gold medal, Olympic gold medal, and 190 international goals, the most of any player, man or woman. Just a few of the feats Christine Sinclair has accomplished in her legendary career, 20 in the red and white for Canada. And tonight, the Burnaby-born superstar played her final international match here at home. Liam Britton has more on the legend's send-off in front of almost 50,000 fans.
Passing the torch. Christine Sinclair finished her time as Canada's women's soccer leader to deafening cheers. Inside the stadium renamed for her for one game. Hours before kickoff, fans were loud, and they stayed loud all night long for the GOAT. At her final game for Canada, Sinclair's soccer greatness was on display. Olympic gold, a CONCACAF title, the all-time international goal scorer for women and men, feted in a pre-game tribute.
We thank you for what you've done. You are truly a national treasure.
That prompted a few tears. When she went on the attack, elation.
Sinclair gets a touch to it. Buchanan to the back post off the bar and knocked in by Quinn.
Her teammates scored the game's only goal. After 57 minutes, she took her final bow, subbed in by close friend, teammate, and fellow British Columbian Sophie Schmidt, another national team stalwart playing in her last international game.
The final whistle goes on her night.
And when the final whistle blew victory, it was joy and thanks from tens of thousands of fans in the stands and beyond.
Well, she's such a great inspiration for young girls and young women.
It's almost sad, but at the same time, like, a happy feeling to know that, like, she's done so much and that she deserves to all the people that are here for her.
She's just an amazing role model, and she has amazing leadership.
A golden memory for a legend in red and white. Liam Britton, CBC News, Vancouver.
CBC News has learned some major changes could be coming to Vancouver's Park Board. Mayor Ken Sim has scheduled a news conference for tomorrow morning, and he will be asking the provincial government to amend the Vancouver Charter, which governs the city, in order to make those changes happen. Vancouver is the only large city in Canada with a separately elected park board that's not directly overseen by mayor and council. Sim originally campaigned to get rid of the park board, but then reversed his decision last summer, months before the civic election. BC's health minister says the province's plan to recruit and retain more healthcare workers has been successful so far. Thousands of nurses have registered in BC this year, including hundreds from overseas. But as John Hernandez reports, some frontline staff say little has improved.
What we've seen in the last year is, by any standard, significant and radical change in many areas of healthcare.
BC's health minister is calling 2023 a big win for public health care.
What we're seeing in response to need is a dramatic increase in every category.
Last year, the province launched a $1 billion human resources strategy to tackle healthcare workforce challenges made worse by the pandemic, including staff shortages and burnout. On Tuesday, Adrian Dix said the results are starting to show.
In 2023 alone, that's January 1st to the present, the BC College of Nurses and Midwives reported 6,258 new nurse registrants, a significant and remarkable improvement.
Other highlights include hundreds of nurses recruited internationally and a new security program to support frontline workers.
One of the key measures key ways that we're address that issue of retention, and that is improving security in our acute care facilities.
But the nurses' union says the moves have changed little on the ground so far, with thousands of nursing vacancies across BC still yet to be filled.
The staffing as it is right now, with almost 6,000 vacancies in the province, makes it very difficult for nurses. And it's not just, sort of once in a while. It is the chronic short staffing that is making things very difficult.
While other critics say what's missing from the province's report is how it's impacted patient care.
But I don't see anything about the number of patients who have been attached to primary care or family doctors. I don't see the sort of measurements of things like the number of hours that ERs are being closed.
Dick says the first year is just the beginning, with more policies to roll out in 2024.
That we're working with patients in the community. We're working with doctors, working with nurses.
A crisis in healthcare that most will agree will take many more years to fix. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
The province and the BC Lottery Corporation have renewed $1.4 million for research into gambling addiction.
And that helps to formulate policies in terms of responsible gambling, how to deal with emerging gambling problems that are being documented, that the research is identifying, because the field is changing so very quickly, particularly as we've seen the significant increase in online gambling ads on TV and radio and other platforms.
The research will be done at UBC's Centre for Gambling Research. The death of a boy in Prince George has sent shockwaves throughout this province. RCMP said last week he died by suicide after he was threatened with online sexual extortion. As Michelle Gassoub reports, experts are urging parents and governments to act urgently to prevent more deaths. And a warning, this story does contain details of sexual extortion some may find disturbing.
12-year-old Carson Cleland died by suicide in Prince George, threatened by a stranger online who had intimate photos of him. Alexandra Ford has lived through the isolation and fear that comes with that kind of threat.
I both wanted to log on to connect with people, but also knowing that when I logged on, I was going to get a barrage of hateful messages calling me every name in the book.
Cleland's death is the second high-profile case out of BC. In 2012, Amanda Todd took her own life after being threatened online. More than a decade later, reports of sextortion in Canada have reached new highs. Just under 5,000 incidents reported between June 2022 and September 2023. Of those cases, nearly 90% involved young men and boys. Salima Noon has been teaching sex education in BC schools for 20 years. She says the questions she receives from students have changed.
This school year, I've had grade 6 and 7s ask me anonymous questions about foot fetishes. And I know this is coming from sites like OnlyFans.
BC's Attorney General has been meeting with the CEOs of sites like OnlyFans, urging them to comply with legislation that protects victims. She says the old school advice to not talk to strangers online is unrealistic, but there are behaviors to watch out for.
Someone being way too attentive to you, asking too many questions, wanting to know everything about you. Look for someone who's asking you to shift platforms. You met them on Roblox and now they want to talk to you on Snapchat. No, do not switch platforms.
With more and more people sharing their most intimate moments online, anyone, young or old, can fall victim. The advice from those who help in these cases: never pay someone who is threatening you.
These images will not be distributed because this is a financial gain for these people, and they have no incentive to actually post those images if you're not willing to pay. It's actually a risk to the exploiters because that's going to paint a target on them and make them easier to track by the authorities.
With a second teen death recorded in BC, parents and guardians reminded to banish the shame that comes when a mistake made online seeps into the real world. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
This coverage can be upsetting for some people. If you need help or know someone who does, you can reach the BC Crisis Centre 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call 1-800-784-2684. 2433. That is also 1-800-SUICIDE. They offer help in more than 140 languages. You can also text or call the nationwide suicide prevention hotline at 988. If you plan to visit Mount Seymour Park starting next week, you will need to reserve a free vehicle day pass before you go. Passes are required between December 14th and January 8th and on weekends and holidays until the end of March. BC's Environment Ministry says that will help reduce crowding. Passes will be available online at 7 a.m. 2 days before a planned visit. Last year, a winter blast left YVR a scene of chaos. Passengers and crew on full planes stranded on the tarmac for hours. Luggage lost. Hundreds of flights canceled just 2 days before Christmas. This year, the airport says they're better prepared. Michelle Morton went to YVR to find out how.
I'm inside the Emergency Operations Center, where behind me you see it's called the Digital Twin. It's basically tracking everything happening real time, including arrivals, departures, even baggage. And the airport says when there's any delay, they can take that information and actually communicate it to other airports. And they say when they do learn that there is a weather event happening, such as a snowstorm, that's when they'll take staff from other areas and departments and bringing them inside of here to operate it. So we just saw the Emergency Operations Center, where we learned they're now going to be tracking the baggage. So we're going to take you behind security and show you where the bags go. Right now we're downstairs in the domestic baggage hall. So YVR says they actually brought in up to 30% additional staff internally and also contracting others out so that they have more hands on deck, so that, for example, if there is a delay, they're quick to get those bags off the plane. So right now you're looking at the sorter. This is where all the bags go. They're directed to what's called the pier downstairs. It's operated by basically a computer system acting as its brain. It's telling the sorter where to push or flip the baggage so that it gets to the right pier. So this has always been in operation, I'm told. But the new quality here for this year for the winter preparedness plan is that they make sure that it can still run through the winter elements. So it's called Airside where we are right now, where thousands of passengers in the holiday season of 2022 were stuck on this tarmac for hours. But now, YVR says they brought in new protocols for this year, seeing arriving planes having access to gates within 30 minutes. Now we're going to the Airport Operations Building. To keep the tarmac clear, YVR says they purchased some new heavy-duty equipment, including this snowblower here. This is a new model, can actually clear almost double the amount than this older model here. As well, on top of that, they said that they hired additional staff and contractors to operate the equipment. Everything you just saw, including these new protocols we just learned about, was all in preparation of the approximate 2 million passengers YVR is expecting to see during the month of December. Compared to last year, that's around 250,000 more. And they expect the busiest days to be between December 20th and the 22nd. Michelle Morton, CBC News, Richmond.
If you've ever been to or near Duncan on Vancouver Island, you've probably seen it. A 66-meter-long hockey stick known as the world's biggest. But it will soon be moved and lose its crown as number one. Justin McElroy explains why the giant stick is in peril.
The Cowichan Valley Regional District. It's a sprawling area on South Vancouver Island with a lot of communities, a lot of totems, and the world's largest hockey stick, but not for much longer.
There's certainly going to be some, I think, some wet eyes and some tears shed.
That is Tom Duncan, a councillor in the city of Duncan, which is only the sixth most absurd thing about this story. You see, for decades, the Cowichan Community Centre has been home to the world's largest hockey stick. It came from Expo, which had all sorts of weird stuff, like an astronaut that never flew, or a weird floating McDonald's. And after Expo, cities from across British Columbia tried hard to recruit the giant hockey stick. But it was eventually given to North Cowichan, just north of Duncan. And despite challenges to its throne over the years, it has been the world's biggest for more than 3 decades. Until now. And it's for 2 very different reasons.
The woodpecker attack?
Yes, the woodpecker attack.
It was like, what the heck is going on up there, mister?
Last year, a northern flicker started striking away at the stick, accelerating the wear and tear on the structure.
The community has put in a lot of effort to keep it in the condition that it was in. But, you know, after 36 odd years, it's starting to show its age.
And secondly, the town of Lockport, Illinois announced they would be coming for Duncan's Ice Crown. So the regional district studied how much it would cost to refurbish the stick to deal with the woodpeckers and to elongate the stick to deal with Lockport. The estimate was just over $1 million. Consultations were done and the people spoke.
There was almost 3,300 responses, and 70% indicated that it was just not in the cards to keep the stick.
And what was the biggest reason? Here is a chart. It shows the amount Cowichan Valley Regional District is expected to get in revenue next year, and the amount it would cost to keep the world's biggest hockey stick. Duncan said the cost was the thing they heard about most, and that the money could go to upgrades to the building itself, a new HVAC system, or enhanced recreational opportunities across the Cowichan Valley.
There certainly will be some tears shed, but in the interests of wisely taking care of taxpayers' money, we really didn't have much option.
As a result, the district is selling the stick, though not without some sentiment.
We would like to see it go to a good home.
So in many ways, this is a typical government story of priorities and trade-offs, of consultation and infrastructure. And while you may be sad that BC will no longer have the biggest hockey stick, we still have the world's largest burl, tin soldier, tandem axle truck, cross-country skis, and paddle. And that's something Lockport and woodpeckers can never take away from us. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
Keeping spirits bright amid a cost of living crisis can be tough. After the break, why Santa will be carrying a bit of a lighter load this year and how some people are cutting their holiday shopping costs. Stick around. Hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream. Thanks for being here. Canada's craft brew industry is facing a sobering new reality. Many of BC's beer makers are considering closing up shop. Our Lindsay Duncan looks at the reasons why.
In just a few weeks, the fermenters at this Vancouver craft brewery will be emptied for good.
And when we finally close that door on December 31st, it's going to be challenging, I think. It'll be sad.
It's not because the beer sucks. This won Best in Canada. But owner Chris Lay says his new landlord plans to raise the rent to up to $10,000 a month. Combine that with the soaring cost of hops, barley, taxes, and well, pretty much everything, and he can't make a go of it.
When you look at it purely logically, it's a no-brainer. Emotionally, much harder.
The problem for breweries right across the country is that everything you need to make beer is costing more, and people aren't drinking as much beer.
The BC Craft Brewers Guild says warnings about booze consumption are changing behavior, and those who do imbibe are broke.
We just are not seeing the drinkers. People are not coming in as often to the tasting rooms, or they're not purchasing because they just can't afford to do it. They're buying groceries and gas.
That makes it tough to consider raising prices to cover costs.
I think it would be easy to say 15% of the businesses are very much struggling, that they may not be in business this time next year.
Rent may be especially high in Vancouver and other big cities, but breweries in smaller places are at risk too, says the National Association. It wants to see pandemic loans extended and federal taxes reduced.
Really just to stay afloat through 2024 and beyond. Breweries just need a break right now.
Chris Lay is looking for a new place to brew, somewhere more affordable, perhaps shared. His business plan now includes craft non-alcoholic soda, adapting to sobering times. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
As inflation and climbing costs loom this holiday season, a recent survey by Leger and the Retail Council of Canada shows Canadians are still undeterred from shopping, but they're planning to shop more intentionally. The poll finds Canadians are projected to spend $898 this Christmas, up from $782 last year. British Columbians, meanwhile, are planning to spend $860, up from $684 last year. While numbers are up, 88% of those surveyed say they are shopping more carefully to try to find ways to save. To tell us more about Canadian shopping habits this holiday season, we are joined by Greg Wilson, the Director of Government Relations in BC for the Retail Council of Canada. Greg, thanks for being here. These polls show Canadians are spending more this year. Why are they doling out more?
Well, the polls also tell us that Canadians say that they're spending more because goods are costing more and because they're concerned, both the people who are intending on spending more and, in fact, the people who are spending less say the same thing. Things are costing more. They're being more careful with their purchases.
So if they are spending more money and a lot of it due to inflation, what are they actually spending money on?
Well, a quarter of them tell us that they're spending money on clothing and apparel. And 81% of British Columbians say that they're spending their monies, the majority of their money, as gifts.
Interesting. And what about any sense of whether or not they're spending it on themselves or anything else, experiences, that kind of thing?
Well, the indication is that they're still spending it in stores. 60% of the spending is in stores still. They're intending on going and shopping, and the big learning this year is that they're intending on shopping earlier than ever. They're being more careful and more deliberate with their purchases.
When we talk about more deliberate, I think the word proactive came up. What does that mean?
So this year, more than ever before, we noticed that Canadian shoppers were planning to shop early. They were planning to start in November, most of them, many around either Black Friday or Cyber Monday or what might be known as Black Friday week.
How does this trend compare to the past few years?
Well, for the first time, the largest 3 planned shopping days are in November. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the Black Friday week. That's a first. In the past, more people had said that they were planning on shopping in December.
And why is it just that the deals are being offered over a larger period? Why the shift to November, do you think?
Well, the shift seems to be more pronounced with young people. Older people still are sticking to traditional patterns. More of them mention Boxing Day, for example, as a shopping time, or the week before Christmas, where the majority of people under 35 are mentioning these early days.
And what about when it comes to online shopping? Any sense around the breakdown between people going into stores and those who are purchasing things on a website?
It still seems to be a 60-40 split, but of course there's a lot of showrooming, people going to stores to check out goods before they go online and buy them, and checking prices, both in big box and small stores and online.
Here's a live shot of downtown, an empty BC Place, Christine Sinclair Place, we should call it. Russ's forecast is next.
Look what happened to Paris after they put up the Eiffel Tower. Who ever heard of Paris before they put up the Eiffel Tower, you see?
Every city has its famous landmarks. And from now on, when you think of Duncan, you're going to think of this giant hockey stick. If it looks familiar, it's because it's the same stick that loomed over Vancouver during Expo. But today, the 61,000 pounds of Canadian symbolism became an official Duncan resident.
It's going to enchant the whole community. That's what it's going to do. It's going to be great.
What do you think's neat about the hockey stick?
It's big, and it's here. Other people from other places might come to see Duncan's lucky because they have the world's largest hockey stick.
But it's not easy moving 205 feet of hockey stick into place. A few cosmetic touches and some last-minute adjustments meant most of these local residents waited about 2 hours before the stick was hoisted proudly into prominence. But it seemed to be worth it. For the patient people of Duncan, the puck stops here. Deborah Goebel, CBC News, Duncan.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Meteorologist Russ Lacade is in for Darius tonight. 24 hours does make a big difference, doesn't it, Russ?
Does. That was quite a washout Monday and Monday night, so we survived it barely, and the rain has since moved off to other parts of the province. Now we'll touch upon those, Dan. Some trouble spots in the province, some downpours occurring along the north shore from that main mother low in the Gulf of Alaska, and this weakening Pineapple Express that moved through the south coast on Monday and Monday night. It is now sort of steering off towards the southeast corner of the province. We still have some mixed rain and snow in parts of the Columbias near Revelstoke and Golden. Heavy rain across parts of the southern Okanagan and into the Kootenays as well. Your daytime forecast for tomorrow across the province does feature some showers and thunder showers mixed in for Prince Rupert, perhaps across Haida Gwaii. Heavy, cold showers into Terrace, maybe a little sleet mixed in there with a morning low of +2, a daytime high of only 4 degrees. Really calmer and drier through the central part of the province. It's quite chilly in the northeast corner. Fort Nelson's high tomorrow -10. They're on the wrong side of the Arctic front. We're at +3 for Fort St. John, near the freezing mark in Williams Lake on a beautiful sunny Wednesday. Now around the south coast tomorrow, I think showers really in Tofino only in the morning. You'll see a little clearing by afternoon. Not much clearing in areas adjacent to the Strait of Georgia. Stubborn cloud cover most of the day around Vancouver Island, I suspect. We had a lot of cloud around here, some scattered showers as well, but it was a very warm day in the wake of that Pineapple Express. I keep coming back to this because these temperatures, we won't see anything like that again for the next 7 days and then some. Your long-range picture, it includes a nice cooling trend, a welcome change of pace, and a drying trend as well. Tomorrow's a pleasant day, lots of cloud, a little peak or two of sun in the afternoon. Showers are back Thursday. Sun is back Friday with a fresh westerly breeze. That's likely the nicest day of this week. And Saturday is the wetter of the two this weekend. That one is not going to be a subtropical Pineapple Express. It's chilly, it is wet, and there will be snow on the local mountains. That's kind of welcome for this time of year.
I think we'll take it up there.
Yeah, not down
Russ.
here. You bet.
No doubt. That's your late news for Tuesday. For any news anytime, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a good night.